There is a certain magic to old British Christmases that, once you close your eyes, comes rushing back like the smell of pine needles and coal smoke drifting together in a cold December night. Back when winter felt colder, families felt closer, and even the simplest pleasure, a single shiny tangerine at the bottom of a stocking, was enough to make your heart leap. Before shopping trolleys groaned under piles of plastic toys, before Christmas playlists erupted in supermarkets in September, and before we started needing scented candles with names like Winter Vanilla Forest, Whisper Snowdream, or Cinnamon Wonder just to feel festive. This was Christmas when the world still felt slower, smaller, quieter, but somehow bigger in all the ways that mattered. Here are the Christmas memories we lost, and the ones we still carry with us, tucked away like baubles in a dusty attic box, waiting to glow again. Saving the most magical for last. Number 1. Christmas mornings. Waking up as a child in the 1950s or early 60s meant one thing first: breath in the cold air. Bedrooms weren't warm and cozy then. Your nose tingled. The windows glittered with real ice ferns, nature's decorations painted overnight. You'd trace little paths with your fingertip, watching it melt just slightly, as if you'd left your mark on winter itself. And then you'd run. Bare feet across freezing lino, or, if you were lucky, thin carpet that did absolutely nothing to help. Down the stairs, wrapping your cardigan tighter because pajamas were never thick enough in those days, and into the front room. That glorious moment. Coal fire glowing, stockings hanging, that soft smell of oranges, pine needles, and slightly dusty paper decorations that had lived in a biscuit tin all year. Everything around the hearth felt warm enough to breathe again. Everywhere else in the house, icebox. And no one complained. You just shuffled closer to the warmth and waited for your toes to return to life. Kids didn't wake parents at 4 in the morning then, either. You sat, quietly, staring at the fire, trying not to rustle your stocking too loudly, because waking Dad before he'd had his first cup of tea was an event that could end Christmas early. Number 2. The thrill of stockings. Stockings weren't themed. They weren't filled with branded toys and sugar that came in shapes children can't even identify now. They were simple woolen socks, often your actual socks, hanging hopefully from the mantel. And what did you find inside? An apple, a handful of walnuts and hazelnuts still in their shells, the smell earthy and festive at once. Perhaps, if you were very lucky, a tiny foil-wrapped chocolate or a single little toy soldier. The greatest treasure? A sixpence. Cold metal in a small hand, as thrilling as any electronic gadget is to children today. Kids didn't rip stockings open. You tipped them carefully, reverently, watching each little gift tumble out like treasure from a pirate chest, even if the treasure was mostly edible and required nutcrackers the size of garden tools. Number 3. Presents wrapped in love, not layers of glitter paper. There was no panic about matching wrapping paper themes, or ribbons bought in 3-meter rolls from fancy shops. Paper was reused, often ironed flat. Sometimes newspaper if times were tight, and no child complained. Sometimes wrapping looked suspiciously like last year's wrapping, because it was last year's wrapping. The point was never perfection. It was surprise, and the joy of untying real string knots with small freezing fingers. And don't forget that moment. A toy shaking gently, making a faint rattle. Was it marbles? A tiny metal car? A tiny dolly with painted eyes? Modern toys beep. Old toys whispered. Number 4. Artificial trees. A Christmas tree then was either a real one, dropping needles everywhere, smelling of magic, or one of those tinsel-type artificial ones that looked like someone had dipped a coat hanger into a glitter factory. Pine needles in your socks? Normal. Tree leaning slightly to one side? Tradition. Old wooden box of baubles where each one felt like a family heirloom, even if it came from Woolworths in 1953? Priceless. Those trees weren't perfect. They were home. And they scratched you. Modern trees never scratch. They don't smell. They don't creak. Childhood trees made their presence known. And just once, someone in the family tried to flock the tree with that dreadful spray snow, and the lounge smelled like chemicals until Boxing Day. Number 5. paper chains and handmade joy. A strip of colored paper. A dab of flour paste on your fingertip. Link, loop, press. Repeat. Hours of work and a tongue sticking out in concentration. By evening, the lounge looked like a festive paper factory exploded. And on the doorframe, those tissue paper bells that folded open like magic. If you were really fancy, foil ones. Today, decorations come pre-lit, pre-strung, pre-programmed. Back then, we made Christmas, with paper, with glue, with pride. Number 6. Real Advent calendars. You opened a little cardboard window and found a drawing, sometimes a candle, a star, a shepherd, on very exciting days, a donkey, no chocolate, and yet, the thrill. Kids raced down in their slippers at dawn, not for sugar, but to see what picture waited behind the door, pressing their finger into the perforated edge like they were unlocking a secret from the universe. Try selling that to a child today and see how far you get. Number 7. The village carol singers and frozen toes. Carol singing wasn't performed by organized choirs in matching scarves. It was your neighbors, your aunties, your schoolmates with chapped lips and red noses, holding candles with homemade paper drip shields. You'd knock on doors, voices shaking with cold, singing "Hark the Herald Angels Sing," and be rewarded not with money, but with coins wrapped in tissue, boiled sweets, or sometimes a mince pie if Mrs. Simmons was feeling generous and hadn't burned the batch. Your shoes froze, your fingers tingled, and you walked home glowing with pride and frostbite. Number 8. Church. Everyone went, even people who hadn't set foot in church since Easter. You sat on those hard pews, bundled in coats and scarves, watching your breath in the icy air as candles flickered and the organ hummed. A hymn book in small hands, wax dripping on fingers, eyes heavy with sleep and sparkle. And that magical walk home under a silent, frosty sky. Stars brighter than fairy lights. Footsteps crunching, breath clouding, no rush, no noise, just Christmas settling gently over every chimney in the street. Number 9. Christmas lunch. No pre-prepared trays, no supermarket marathons, and no checking online timers. Turkey didn't even appear in every home until the 60s and 70s, and even then, if the butcher had sold out, you were having chicken, goose, or whatever could be roasted respectably with potatoes, vegetables soaked overnight, sprouts boiled into submission, then boiled some more, gravy stirred forever in a battered pan, radio crackling in the background, Mum's apron dusted in flour, Dad carving with absolute ceremony, whether the bird was magnificent or modest, and the smell filled the whole street, drifting into cold air like a promise. Number 10. Crackers that barely cracked, but mattered anyway. Paper hats that split immediately, plastic mustaches, tiny magnifying glasses that steamed up instantly, jokes so old they came with wrinkles. And you loved every second. No one discussed recycling. No one debated quality. You just wore the hat, groaned at the joke, and felt like royalty because it was Christmas and the crown said so. Number 11. Afternoon TV. 3 o'clock. Silence. The monarch's speech flickering on a square screen, picture a bit snowy, sound buzzing softly like bees in winter. Then films, cartoons, more cambe and wise. A more calm eyebrow lift could unite the nation more than any election. Everyone watched the same thing. Everyone laughed together. Today there are 1,000 channels. Back then there were 2, and that was more than enough. Number 12. The radio, the wireless, and the magic of sound. For some families, television didn't arrive until the 70s, so Christmas arrived through sound. Bing Crosby crooning, King's speech crackling through the static, hymns carrying softly into every room. It didn't matter if you had much, you had warmth, you had sound, you had company. Number 13. Board games. By the 8th afternoon, bellies were full and spirits were high. And out came Snakes and Ladders, Cluedo or Monopoly, which always started with love and ended with someone threatening exile. And selection boxes, treasure maps in cardboard form. The Curly Whirly was gold, that strange coconut bar. Well, someone eventually ate it in February. Chocolate lasted weeks if rationed. Children formed alliances lawyers today would admire. Number 14. Boxing Day Walks and Rosy Cheeks. No one said steps. No one tracked anything. You simply walked. Coats buttoned tight, scarves knotted snug, boots crunching over frozen pavements. Fields, parks, seaside promenades, breath visible in the crisp air. Returning home to cold toes, warm fire, leftover turkey, and the smell of pine needles slowly drying. Number 15. The simple truth at the heart of it all. Christmas wasn't about perfection. It wasn't about piles of presents. It wasn't about flawless decorations or coordinated wrapping, or whether your stuffing was artisan sage and chestnut-infused organic hand-crumbled bread. It was love. It was warmth. It was feeling like the world paused, just for a moment, and you were safe, together, and exactly where you were meant to be. Even now, all these years later, if you close your eyes, you can still smell the mince pies, still feel the coal fire heat, still see your breath in the ice-cold bedroom, still hear the paper crown crinkle as someone laughed across the dinner table. That wasn't a simpler time. It was simply Christmas. And oh, how lucky we were to grow up then, when magic didn't come from shops, but from family, tradition, and the soft glow of a fire in a cold, quiet room on Christmas morning.